So let me just kickstart it. Welcome, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're joining in from. Thanks for joining our monthly webinar series, our TechGrid's monthly webinar series. Today's topic is about legacy no more, and we are going to focus on modernizing the Ruby on Rails with AI. I'm Dinesh, and I'll be your host for the next 40 to 45 minutes. Before we jump into the deck, a quick housekeeping item. If you have any questions, please drop in the chat anytime. We have a Q&A block at the end, but if something fits in the moment, I will surface it live. With that said, I would like to introduce myself, give a bit more introduction about myself, and also introduce my colleagues here. I lead the AI product delivery at Tagrit, which means I sit at the intersection of what AI can do today and what engineering teams actually need. The last close to 2 years, I have spent most of my time in conversations exactly like the one you might be having internally about your Rails platform or any legacy platform. So, with that said, my job today is mostly to host, set the context, and keep the conversation moving. And let me quickly introduce Rajesh. Rajesh Panda is our AI architect. We call him RP. He's the one who designs what an AI native modernization looks like and how AI fits into a client's architecture. Uh, so he often finds himself in the room with the engineering leaders on the day zero and day one. So Rajesh, do you want to have give a quick introduction of yourself?
Sure. Hello, everyone. My role is to help with the AI strategy and architecture for our partners. I do interact with our with the dev leaders with the challenges and the issues that they have while they go through this whole modernization stack. Happy to be here.
Thank you, RP. And we also have Ashok, our high octane, high energy applied AI lead. He builds the AI pipelines that reads any legacy app on one end and emits something modern in the other. The skills, the validators, and any logic that you see, Ashok is the person who turns the methodology into an actual working code. So, Ashok, do you want to introduce yourself a bit?
Hi everyone, I'm Ashoka. I'm the applied AI lead at TechGrid. Whatever we are going to see the pipeline today, it's built by me and our team. Thank you.
So thanks for the introduction, Jans, and let's quickly go over today's agenda here. We will start off with the Rails reality in 2026. What does the ecosystem looks like, and where we are right now in terms of AI. And Rajesh Panda is going to talk about the modernization readiness index, and Ashok is going to walk us through a live demo end to end on a very small subset of an application that we migrated, a very small sample size. That's the right fit for this demo today. And we have a Q&A session at the end, so we will take any questions at that time. But before I jump into the next deck, right, since this is a live demo, I would like to hand over the control to Ashok, where he pushes the button on the migration, where he does the live migration. So while the migration happens in the backend, on the background, we will come back to the deck, talk about the deck and the methodology and some of the readiness index a bit. And then we will jump back to Ashok, and Ashok can actually show us what happens in the background there. So Ashok, I'm stopping my screen share. Can you quickly show and like push the button?
Yeah. Okay. Yes. You can see my screen, right?
Yes. Yeah, we can.
Yeah. So this is what we did is we have the huge loan servicing system. Okay, it is having a multiple modules. So what we did is we took the one of the smallest module for the demo purpose, because we want to run the end-to-end how the migration process works. So we took the one small how the account summaries look. Okay, how the all the accounts and all the summary will look like. So we took the one small module here. So what this module will tell us is all the account details, okay, account list, and who is the borrower, what is the status of the account, and what is outstanding principal, and the interest, everything it will showcase the list. And when you click on any of the account, you will see the more details about the account, the all the details outstanding, interest rate, and everything. And then also it will show the all the payment history also, and also the system can record the new payment as well here. Example, I want to record one payment called $100. Okay, on the card payment we got it, and I can record that and it will show that. This is a small module we took for the demo purpose. Okay, and this is how our legacy application look like. Let's see how the code look like. Okay, so the code is in part of two parts. One is a front end and one is a back end legacy rails. Okay, this is very simple. We took the module for the demo purpose where we have a controllers, couple of controllers, services, and model. Okay, and this is all about the code base. Let's go to the how this code works in the migration. So we just run one command called spec to express, and we give the story number, and I just enter. This is my cloud code setup. Okay, I just run, and this will take a couple of minutes to complete the process. Okay, then it will migrate our legacy application to the modernization application. We took the example as a express node.js here. Okay, and let's jump into our original webinar and come back and see the result after some time.
So before we close that, so what's the version of Rails and Ruby?
Yeah, I will just jump into there. Okay.
Yeah.
If you see in the gem file, okay, we can see the Ruby is 3.2.0. Okay, and the Rails is 7.1.0.
Okay.
Yeah. Any other questions we are?
Yeah, we can.
No, I think we can jump.
Yeah. Okay, then. Thank you. Oh,
So let me just. Okay, so without further ado, we will jump into the deck here. So I wanted to talk before we talk about modernization. We wanted to clear something out. Rails is a great framework, as you can see. It's one of the most popular frameworks that is in production right now and used by the production applications right now, and in a lot of enterprises. And this is not a framework with a credibility problem. We are not saying Rails is like not credible or not powerful or anything. Is it the reason we mostly have a discussion like this is to understand if a specific application is it architected for what's next? Is Rails being a constraint and what we can do there? And while we are in the discussions, there is a similar pattern that we have been observing with all the legacy and especially Rails, right? And some of these market forces I would call here is that three things, mainly hiring, maintenance, and AI integration. When it comes to hiring, everyone knows that Ruby on Rails, the talent pool has been shrinking for the last 5 to 6 years. And the talent pool has actually shifted to Python and Node and other JavaScript based frameworks here. And what it means is that what's the ripple effect of this one? One, the senior engineers cost more. There is a lack of a bigger talent pool of junior engineers or mid-level engineers, and it further goes into the maintenance. It has the effect on maintenance where you actually end up spending significant amount of time on your maintenance, or your roadmap becomes narrower because you don't have enough talent. You can't hire the talent right on time, so you compromise on what is the feature set that you want to get out in the next quarter. So before I talk more on this one, RP, since you sit together in a room across the engineering leaders who actually sign off on these decisions, who actually take these decisions, who actually live with the system, right? So apart from this 3 or 4 scenarios, right? Are there any other motivations that you actually hear during your conversations? Can you talk more on that?
Sure. I think one of the major ones that I have heard is one thing. I think you have already mentioned the AI integration. So most of the AI stack is in Python, and you have TensorFlow, PyTorch, LangChain. So the entire AI LLM tool chain, right? It lives on Python right now. So when a Rails team wants to add these AI features, I think what they end up doing is they create some Python microservices and they bolt onto it. So what ends up happening is now you're maintaining 2 solutions. One is you're building the AI service, and then you're refactoring your existing Rails application to communicate with it. So that's one of the challenges that you see, and the other one is there's a synchronous architecture mismatch as well. That's always there because AI inference, it takes a bit of time, when you run an inference, right? So it could take seconds, it could take uh, some minutes. So and classic Rails applications are more designed towards synchronous request response cycles. So that's another thing that is forcing people to adopt to newer tech stack if there is a need for it. So I think let me take this one, right? So once you once you start your modernization, right? So what are you looking at? So I'll throw some numbers here, right, just to build that context. So 40 to 60% of your release cycles, I think they become faster by 40 to 60% here. And let's say you're shipping, let's say monthly once, right? You're having one release cycle per month. Now that could shrink and that could become two releases per cycle. So that is something I think that definitely improves, right? Once you modernize your application. And the other number is the 50%. So I think that translates into that 50%, right? You're able to quickly, sorry, you're able to quickly reach market, and your ideas are able to reach your customers there. So what that brings is now you're able to compete with your competitors because they are shipping faster, and whoever ships faster is usually like who wins the race there.
Okay, but
And
the numbers look good here. I mean, 50%
mhm.
reduction in time to the market. So, what is based on your experience, right? Do these numbers hold up across the stacks or even in the rails? What is the uh, range here? What is the plus or minus here in terms of this one?
Right. So a lot of it depends on what your core business looks like, right? What is you're trying to solve in the end. But these numbers are pretty much what we have seen across the board. So even though if you look into your VBJX or some other legacy application, I think these numbers would definitely hold good there as well. So you're able to ship faster, you are able to reach market faster, and also the infrastructure cost will go down since the newer frameworks or the upgraded frameworks are more efficient. Where so you and when you are migrating, you're also getting rid of dead code as well as you're combining components wherever possible. So that would mean you are like hosting in a much more leaner fashion there.
Mm.
So that's there. And once you achieve all of this, your roadmap is unlocked here. So every time we hear some teams saying that hey, we cannot ship because of we're limited by the current tech stack. So those kind of that conversation disappears totally. And yeah, you're on the right track after that.
Got it. Understood. Understood. And often, right? I mean, let's talk about this one. I mean, like, what are
Mm-hmm.
the myths or what are the assumptions that the clients or the engineering leaders usually get wrong when we talk about modernization here? We talk
So I
about the
think
good things. We talk about the good metrics, good outcomes, and what are the
yeah,
myths that we need to scratch
yeah,
before we jump
yeah. I
into?
think this is a good baseline to have, right? So I think people who are getting into this whole conversation of modernization, they should understand this. So oftentimes, modernization does not mean that it's a complete rewrite. So typically, we like what we do is we follow a triangular pattern there, which is hey, just upgrade or update one module at a time, and there is a method to the madness there, right? How you approach, right, and in what fashion you are upgrading or how much you are upgrading or rewriting. So that's there, and yeah, you're not right. It doesn't mean that hey, you're abandoning of it.
Mhm.
Uh, once we start once we get to the implementation phase, so everything that we develop or everything that you are creating, we are replacing, that gets added to the base framework. So your typical code development can still go on,
Mhm.
unless it's going to be a challenge. I think that hardly happens, but it can still go on, but and you're not stuck for 12 months. So yeah, that's what I think, some of the things that yeah, it does
Mhm.
not. I mean, yeah, I mean, these are some of the fears that people usually walk into a room with, that engineering leaders like, hey, will this, right, happen this way or not? So yeah, just calling that out.
Mhm. Okay. And and this is one of the story, right, that we did. Before
Mm-hmm.
RP, you talking it. Let me set some context on this one. So we actually had a client who have a years old Rails application where they did some rapid development for like 3 4 years or something along those lines, and then a lot of features have been shifted. It's a very mature application. It's in production and people are using it and all. They have a significant customer base and all, but somehow the development slowed down for whatever the business reasons might be, and then like it went to the
Mm-hmm.
maintenance mode. It's keeping the lights on situation there, and then like feature set or updates on have not been prioritized, and slowly
Mm-hmm.
the tribal knowledge left the team, and then slowly the other products in the same organization went into the Python or other more recent Java based frameworks on this one.
Right.
And then we came in there, and then like we started looking at the migration efforts on this one. So with that said, right, on day zero or day one, right, what can you give a high level key highlights on this one particular case study, key highlights and key outcomes on this one?
Sure. So, I think one of the first things that before even right we got into the code, right, or before even we started coding, what we did, we ran a structured 6 week audit process on the code base, on gems, on the infrastructure, and the output was a like a readiness index. Right? I think that's something that we're going to cover later in this webinar.
Mhm.
So with that readiness index, it paints a quantitative picture of sort, right? Hey, what are the risks or what are the components that right you should address first? Is it going to be a rewrite or is it going to be a simple upgrade? So those kind of things are identified in that process. So
Mhm.
in this particular project, right, what we did was we identified 4 dependency chains that was blocking right the Rails upgrade.
Mhm.
And I think, as I said, right, it's a quantitative right analysis. So it gives a score out of 5, which is
Mhm.
right. In this case, it was 4.2. So it did tell us that right there's a need for us to right solve these issues and then right go ahead and upgrade it.
Mhm. Thank you. And
Uh,
and I know Ashok, you worked on this one. When I'm looking at this metrics, right? What is fast go AI generated code here? Like, what is it? 60 to 70% uh, talk about.
So whenever we start using the skills or prompt, right, the first go whatever the prompt and whatever the spec we are giving it, okay, it will try to understand the spec and the skill prompt, okay, and it will give the like 60 to 70% of working code. Okay, then we have to review it whether any corner cases are missing, okay, or any test cases missing, okay, any conditions wise is anything is missing. So we have to just retest them, and if something is missing in that point, we will just reprompt again and we'll get the that 60 to 70% to 100%. So the first go means like whenever you give the first prompt, the achieving the code is 60 to 70%.
Okay, go
Yeah,
understood.
yeah,
Understood.
yeah.
And RP, I know you talked about the readiness index assessment here. Can you take us more in depth of this one?
Sure. I think this is the index that we created, right, for projects like this. So there are different facets to it. So you have, right, at the very beginning, you have the code base, age and complexity that tells us, right, objectively, like what is there to be, right, what is there and, right, what should be upgraded or what should be refactored, what should be rewritten completely. So, right, that helps us there. And after that, we are also looking at the team, right? What is the team's capability or, right, how is it getting affected because of the current code base or the current tech stack? And then we talk about the product velocity track, which is how much it like the tech stack might be affecting the actual velocity of the team, right? Or maybe they are getting right, their efforts might be right, even though they're capable, they might be spending their efforts in actually solving some of the issues with the stack rather than actually right delivering features. And the migration, this profile and sequencing logic, I think these are some of the things which right? They differ from project to project, and each one is different. So I mean, I'll do right. I'll go over these right in detail. So let's talk about the code base, the age and complexity here. And this is something that's very easy to measure, and most of the teams they generally overestimate when they're trying to do that. So we look at five right signals for Ruby or Rails, right? We look at five signals. But one is your Rails version, one is your Ruby runtime version, what your test coverage looks like, what's your dependency sprawl, tech debt, concerns, callbacks, lines of code, right, per active maintainer. So and then we score on these parameters. And for example, if you are on Rails 7 and you have a 70% right coverage, and say you have very few gems, let's say less than 50, so you are scoring a 1 or 2 there. Now on the flip side, let's say if you are on Rails 4 and you are below 40%, and you have lot many gems to manage and right handle, then you are getting right 4 or 5. And this is something that we have seen as like any Rails app which is older, right? Older than 5 years or so, it
Mhm.
generally gets into that 4 or 5 zone,
Okay. So
right?
so one is your most easiest application that you can modernize, and then like five is a
Yeah, yeah. So maybe
okay.
that could be like just be like, hey, there's an upgrade that we have to do on the Rails, and right,
Mhm.
remove some of the right breaking changes if required.
Yeah, is one when you give a score of one that can be done in a day. Not-
So we can go to the next one, which is the team like capability right gap. Uh, so this is something that nobody usually talks about in the room, and it measures the gap between your current skills, right, which you have on the team, and what modernization actually requires, right? What skills will that require?
Mhm.
So we look at four things, which is ratio of your senior Ruby engineers, let's say, to your total team size. How many people from the original team are there, right, who actually understand, right, everything about the code base, your documentation maturity, for example, your tribal knowledge,
Mhm.
and AI changes the math here too, right? A small team augmented with AI can do right lot more than, let's say, right, a larger team.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I think these numbers are like the same, right?
So
That tell the same story. The next one that we have, right, which is the product velocity drag. Now, this is where, right, I think it stops being an engineering conversation and it becomes a right a business conversation. Like we need to understand what is necessary for a team to do, right? What do they want to do, and right what they're currently doing, right, versus what they're currently doing. So we measure their cycle time from spec to production, and the percentage of engineering capacity going to maintenance versus actual right actual feature development. So yeah, I think the signal that matters most here is when your roadmap is being shaped by, let's say, the stack, right? What your current stack is. So versus what your customers exactly want. So I think that has dragged, right? It has stopped being a tech problem into a growth problem then. So
Mhm.
that's what we assess this, and that's 40 to 60%, 50%, right? That's the improvement that you see once you right once you have a plan of action and you right move towards it.
Yeah, got it. And
Yeah, so factors 4 and 5 are right. So it's a migration risk profile would be right data sensitivity, integration surface area, downtime tolerance, regulatory exposure, and sequence 5. I mean, sequencing logic is mostly like it's like which module to modernize first versus like weight by value, risk, dependency. So those things. So these are like the two stages which are sequencing decisions mostly, right? And they actually get made while you're doing the project. So they differ project by project. So the previous three were like the standard practices, like, hey, we have a set of questions that we accept. But
mhm.
these two are different in ways that there's no standard pattern to these factors here. So each project is different, and yeah.
Okay, and out of this five, right, our pivot,
Mhm.
what is the most complex one to index in the context of legacy as well as in terms of the Rails, right? Any pattern that you observed? Yeah.
So we have the strangler effect, right? I think that typically helps us out here. So once we identify like there are certain modules which are far risky as part of the migration risk profile, and
Mhm.
along with the sequencing logic, we identify which modules we have to address first, and
Mhm.
that's what like it becomes a key cornerstone for us to start the process, and we take all of that into account and
Mhm.
deliver on that.
Okay. Okay.
So that's all on the modernization index that I have, and since each project is different and each project has a different set of issues, challenges, and chaos,
Mhm.
but there is a method to madness, and that's the 4D system that we have here. And we touched upon, I guess we touched upon, I remember that we touched upon this 4D method in one of our last webinars also. So our regular viewers might remember that. These are discover, define, design, and deliver. Now, Ashok is someone who has who lives these day in and day out. So I'll now ask him to just elaborate on these for us.
Yeah. Thank you, RP. So we follow the like any migration projects, right? We follow the 4D model. Okay, discovery, define, design, delivery. So what exactly the each stage will do? I will go one by one. Okay. So the discovery, whatever we discussed about the factor one, right? About the how complexity the code, how what is the age of the code? Okay, what is the technology? Okay, how much of the functionality and everything we have. So discovery is where we are going to analyze the code. Okay, everything about the code, architectures, and everything we are going to analyze. Then we have, based on the analyzation, like we will create our own custom skills for each and every technology. Okay, which will convert the code into a PRD. The PRD is about the project requirement document, which can be stay for the longer for us. If we are migrating today, can be stay the same. If you're migrating after 10 years, also the same PRD can help us to migrate to any technology. Okay, the PRD where everything will be the requirement is we are gathering. Then the define is where actually the PRD is there. We have previous architecture is there. Let's discuss when we are migrating. Do we need to take any design changes? Do we need to down any functionality or increase any new functionality? Those all decision making we are going to do on the define stage. Okay, where with the architecture changes, what technology we have to migrate. Okay, what is the framework we have to use, what database we have to use. All the things we are going to decision going to happen on D2 define. Once a define is done, what we are going to do is we have a PRD, we have an architecture and decision is there. Now the design, what we are going to do is we are going to in any development environment we will think about the stories. So the stories we are going to convert into code, right? So similarly, we are the PRD to stories we are going to convert. Okay, the epic stories
Yeah.
so that we can the team can work in the scrums or Kanban mode or any other different development methodology we can follow it. So PRD to stories we are going to convert. Again, we are going to use the skills AI tools to convert this process. Then the final stage will come where we are going to convert the stories into a code. Okay, then we are going to validate testing all things one by one will go
Mhm.
on.
And
Okay,
and
yeah,
So
before we jump into the demo, right? I mean, like,
yeah,
what is the most important phase out of this for the humans to be in the loop, right? Whether the product owners or the business owners or the architects, right? Where do you
yes.
meet them in here? What's the most important phase for them?
Yeah. So the second define phase where we are going to take the decisions. Okay.
Mhm.
The PRD is there, but the PRD is built using the code and some business logic. Now to we have to validate whether the PRD, whatever the PRD we generated, whether this is actually same the product application is not comparingly matching or not. We have to validate. The only validation can happen with the product owner or SMEs of the that particular product. So there in the decision first stage we are going to compare the PRD, and once we PRD successfully sign up, then the second stage where we are going to take the decisions. Oh, what language what migration we have, what language we have to go to migration, right? There again the owners, SMEs, and the architect, those can come and discuss each other and decision take the decision on that part.
Mhm.
and to
Yeah,
add to that, I think decisions should also be about the sequencing of like which modules to tackle first. So I think
yeah,
those kind of things would typically happen during the D2 phase,
yeah,
the define phase. And the stories that we have to create from the PRD, they have to be cohesive as well. I think that
Yeah.
is also a requirement, that we look, I mean, that we take care of during the design phase. Like, uh, yeah, as one story can look good in its as a standalone thing, but it has to work well with the other stories as well. I think that kind of control also needs to be there, right, when you're working through this D3 phase.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know, Shuk, you are going to share your screen, but before we jump in there, I have one question where I know you have your very, I mean, flushed out skills that you use and then you share with your team to do it. But
Yeah.
when you go through a application which doesn't have documentation or it has minimal documentation, and then you
Mm.
pull the PRD out of it and then you pull the business cases out of it, what is the level of trust on that you got that is generated from the old code that you have or the existing code that you have, and how much that has to be like reviewed, and how often do you make the changes to it? How often does the AI gets it completely wrong, or uh,
Uh,
some part of it
So
wrong?
as
Yeah.
we yeah, as we saw in the previous slide, right, we mentioning the 60 to 70% of first go we are mentioning, right? The same
Mm,
way, like it apply for all the stages. Like the first go we reach around 60 to 70. Sometime we reach to 80%. Then we'll review and we'll improve our prompt to get the 90%. Again improve, review it again 100%. So it's not the one time we reach the 100%. Whatever the prompt we are giving, it will not reach 100%. We have to review and redefine the all the prompts and execute them multiple times to achieve that. So that's the reason what happens, right? In the once we are ready with the skill, okay, oh,
mm.
it's working fine, then we will share the same skill with other developers so that we are reducing the timeline with other developers. That's the reason we are increasing the productivity there.
Understood. I would
Yeah.
like to do a quick check on the timeline. We only have like 12 minutes left out in our schedule, so Ashok, please go
Yeah.
ahead and
Yeah.
like share your screen and do that.
Yeah, can you, okay, I'm sharing my screen. Okay. So yeah,
And just
as
for
we
the people
dis
there, I'm also getting some questions on my Zoom chat and all, so I will surface it whenever that's appropriate. Yeah, please,
yeah,
Ashok.
yeah, as we discussed, this is our legacy application, and I shown the other legacy application look like.
Mm,
So as we saw, right, like I executed one command and its migration started and the process happened, right? So
mhm,
before we execute that particular command, we discussed about the how the PRD generate, the stories generate, right? So to this we have very short time to in the webinar, right? What we did is we already generated the PRDs and stories. So we explain how the PRD look like, how the stories look like, and how we generated, what is the skill look like. So we explain that part. Then we'll see how the migration happen, how the after migration and before migration, how the application look like. We'll have walk through one by one. So first we'll go like how the PRD look like. Okay. So if you go to my docs folder, we have created one PRD. Okay. The PRD will explain the business logic, what is the business and what are the different models are there. As we took the only the small module right now, this module will have account payments and payment methods and data stores. Okay, this is small module we took. Okay, then it will tell the what is the life cycle of that account life cycle, payment life cycle. Then the main goal of the PRD is to capture the all the business rules. So it will capture the all the business rules. Here the SME or product owner will help us to validate these business rules. Okay, it will create all the business rules. Also, it will tell us to source from where this business rule got generated. It will also tell what line it got generated.
mm.
Okay, so the PID will have the end to end all the business rules. Okay, then some uncertainty flags also will be there. Then SME will review this all uncertainty flags. Okay, and they will give the sign up on it. Okay, this is how the PRD look like for us.
But
Okay,
how about the
any
skill
question?
that generated this PRD, Ashok? Like I
Yes,
know we can
yes,
look into that.
I will come to that. So if you
Mm,
go to my cloud folder, so for this
mm,
entire process, right, we use the cloud code, okay, and the
mm,
cloud skills we used to
mm.
do all the process, this migration. So if anybody knows about the cloud, we'll have a cloud skills will be here. The same skill we can use for other tools as well, but small changes we have to do there. So example, we have three different skills. We have one first skill is the Rails to PRD. So this is how the my skill look like, where will I will give the input as my entire code base.
Mhm.
I say the output should be in the format of the domain specific. Okay, domain models should be there, lifecycle rules should be there, and entity names and everything should be gathered. Then all the business rule. This is what I'm giving a the prompt to my system. Okay, the AI tool. So this is how I defined everything in clearly in the my prompt. This is what the skill look like.
Understood.
Anush? Yeah. So now we are talking about the PRD. Okay. Now what we'll do is the PR to epics. Already we converted the couple of the stories and epics. Okay. Those epics and stories look like this. And for that we use the one more skill called PRT to stories. Okay. Similarly, if you see the prompt, so it will clearly tell what is the we are going to give the all the PRD. Okay, then it will read one by one line and everything, and it will tell this is my process of story. Okay, it will create the epics, then it will create the all the stories. The epic format should follow like the story format follow like. So it will be clearly defined everything in the prompt. So what happens, right, when you instead of prompt engineering and skills are totally different. When you give the skills, every time you will get the same output because you are providing a proper formatting. Okay, let's go and see one of the story epic how it look like. Okay, this story talk about the account, okay, and creation and everything. So it will cover the business rules from 0 to 10. Okay, total it's converted into 7 stories. Okay, each story will define what exactly to do, acceptance criteria. Okay, then how what are the different conditions and everything. It defined everything.
Hmm.
Okay,
Understood.
this is about the PRD and stories. Okay, any
Mhm.
question on this particular moment?
No, I have some questions, but we will take it
Yes,
once
yes.
we finish the
So initially I'll run one command, right? That
Mhm.
command, when we run that command, the entire process happen in the background, right? So
Mhm.
what we did is for the demo purpose for to make the successful to show the end-to-end process, right? What we did is we migrated the entire project.
Mhm.
Okay, for the demo purpose, we run the entire project, and after the migration, how the Node.js application look like, that I will explain, and we'll compare with the legacy application and modernization application and see what are the changes happen, how this work happen, right? So if you see the legacy application, we have a junk file where we have the versions and everything. Similarly, modernization application, we have a package.json. This entire setup is ready. Okay, and take an example of any controller. Let's take an example of payment control in the legacy application. Okay, so this is a create payment method endpoint.
Mhm.
Okay, same like whatever the process we are doing it, similarly the same process will happen in the legacy application as well. Let's go to the payment one. Same, if you see, same process is happening here as well. And when it's generating the code from the whatever the process we skill based we use, right, it will already like keep the all the story details, comments and everything. Example, if you come after 6 months and try to understand how this code got generated and what is the background for this one, you can just go and read the stories and PID back.
Understood. But
Okay.
I do have one question in the chat here that someone asked,
Okay.
that's relevant here. What happens to active record patterns, the associations, the scopes, the callbacks, when the
Yeah.
AI translates a when AI translates a controller?
Yes, yes. So what exactly, if you take an example of models, we go it, okay, payment model. So we have uh, uh give a second. Give me a second. Yeah, if you see like before and after state savings are happening, right? So
Mhm.
it will not blindly go and create anything in the whatever the migration happens, right? It's properly follow the patterns. If you go, it will create the different service layers and everything in the uh, uh, or application example. So if you see all the service layer, it creating properly to respect to services.
Mhm.
Okay, so whatever the callbacks are happening in the Rails, the respect to services will mapped in the Node.js, so that
Mhm.
there will be a sync between the both of them.
Understood.
Yeah. And so how the like the one thing it common for everybody, how do you do the testing of the comparison testing and everything? There is a common question for everyone, right? So
Mhm.
is the legacy and the modernization responses and result is same or not? For that, what we generally follow is like we do the side by side testing, okay, for the
Mhm.
all the migration applications. So how the side by side testing will look like, I will just explain that. Okay, so for the demo purpose, what we did is like for the UI also we migrated. UI also we did the migration. So the legacy application was looking like this. So we migrated the UI as well like this. So right now the UI is right now the front end is working with the calling the Express. Okay.
Mhm.
So if you see the all the data, okay, if you can open, you can see the all the data as well. Okay, same way, just you can switch between the Rails and Express. I can just go to the Rails. Okay, this is the previous existing legacy application endpoints. Now when we switch, now it's calling to all the legacy endpoints. In this way you can compare the what the legacy app giving the result as well as the Express the modernized app is giving the response. You can do the comparison and you can conclude, oh, application is working 100% correct and we can ready for the production.
Understood. Understood.
So
Yeah.
just to add to that previous question, right, the
Mm,
active record pattern. So active records are right. It's the way that you write it. It's not exactly code
mm,
that does not get translated. So think of it as like this. Like first, I think the first step here that right we usually do is we extract what the model actually does. Right, we understand that, and then we right turn it into a checklist of things. Like hey, this particular model does right. These are things that it need like it right. These are the functions or these are the things that it needs to do, and that gets translated. So it's not a direct translation of hey, just look at file and right do that. Instead, we first convert into a checklist, as Ashok was saying, a PRD, and then the story. So there's a checklist inside it, and that gets translated in there.
Hmm. Understood. Understood. I have one other question that's relevant here, right? Uh,
Mhm.
how should senior engineers change their PR review process? I mean, it goes back to the 4D method that Ashok, you were talking about it. How does the PR review process should change for senior engineers when a significant portion is AI assisted or AI powered, right? How did it change your PR review process, Rajesh and Ashok?
So, yeah, I think the checklist does not change much here, right? But I think there's a change in the review posture, if I can call that. So
Mhm.
every AI assisted PR, right? I think it should be linked to the actual, right, the Jira story or right
mm,
any project management tool that you're using. So it should be linked to the actual user story there, and
Mhm.
it should be verifiable. Like you should be able to verify, like, hey, this change is coming from the right this part of the story. So that should be there. Now, one way to do this is uh, right. We have used AI agents, right, which run on a separate server, which
Mhm.
do this right in a standalone manner, right? They verify right the story, right? They have the context, and then they go ahead and they verify the changes.
Mhm.
And also, what we have done is one rule of thumb that we have followed is at
Mhm.
least have one human authored right test in the right in the like before you merge, right, at least have one unit test which is human authored there. So this
Mhm.
way you control it, right, like how you do that, right, whole PR review, and right as a lead you would do that.
Yeah. So before I ask my one question, I know we are about 1 minute. Oh, we are right on time.
Yeah.
Session. Please drop any questions you have in the chat. We will take them. If you have any questions, you can comment on LinkedIn as well. But uh, RP and Ashok, I know you guys or did the COBOL migration. You did the AngularJS migrations. You did old legacy versions of Python or VB.NET migrations that I can remember. You've been part of that. And recently, also there is one conversation where you did a quick assessment on some of the BB business basis or Pro 5, like some early 90s legacy banking software that you are doing, right? So how does those tech stack compare with Rails? Is Rails more easier to modernize, or it's the same effort, or can you draw a comparison or can you draw parallels between these tech stacks here?
uh, I can take this one. So honestly, like Rails sit in the middle. Okay, compared to the Cobalt, Cobalt is harder because you're moving entire the platform to mainframe, data layer, and everything. Coming to the any front end, if you say Angular or any front end, it's easy. You can swap the one component and you can build and you can test it. But when coming to the Rails, right, like it's a between you're actually the logic, the hidden logic. Okay, you're going to change it and you can going to test it everything. But I can say it's a part of middle. It sits in middle compared to
Hmm.
the Cobalt or compared to the any front end application.
Hmm. Understood.
Also, I think on Ruby, right? So let's say in this application, right, Express, when you're migrating to Express, right, it does not have exact like for like or equivalent,
Yeah.
let's say methods or right dynamic method definition, stuff like that. So
Hmm.
that's where I think what happens is right the skills that we have written they
Mhm.
surface out these potential issues like let's say a metaprogramming hotspot or right or routes they surface it out. Now what AI does good at is like it will solve what is solvable and it will surface out the issues which are right quite risky or difficult right for it to solve. And that's where I
Hmm.
think the human in the loop comes into picture and we right as developers or as leads or what we
Hmm.
try to do is we find solutions and then we right upload it or right we update the skill with the required hey this is the process or this is the approach that should be used in order to solve this kind of a problem. So that's the back and forth, right? Or right that goes on with the updation of the skill. But that's how you reach a level. So as Ashok mentioned earlier, like you reach 60-70% during the first iteration, then eventually, right, you start gaining more and more, right, with each successive iteration with the skills. And
Hmm.
Yeah.
that's where I think developers, right, good developers would come in handy.
Understood. There is one question that's very related to this one we got in the chat here. Uh, I'm gonna add more on top of this one. From a product management perspective, should technical dependencies be identified and considered at the very beginning of a migration project? That's the question, or it can be assessed later. But I would like to add on this one, like how good is your pipeline that you built out, right? How good is it? I know from a code standpoint and from the business logic, you said 70 to 70%. And but how good is the AI pipeline in identifying the technical dependencies? Are there scenarios where you have identified it later in the delivery or the design phase? And how did you tackle that? How does that change your pipeline here?
Can you repeat your question, Dinesh? I think
So,
I have.
so we talked about AI pipeline, you generating the technical dependencies, sorry, but the business use cases, the stories and the code from the
Okay.
older other tech stack code, right? But
Mhm.
while you're doing your assessment and you're indexing it, how
Okay.
good is your AI pipeline in identifying the technical dependencies? Are there anything that slipped through the crack and then like you have to like rethink in the later stages and then doing it? How confident are you on your AI pipeline on this
No, I
one?
think our the deliverables that we give they do go through rigorous right verification process,
Mm,
and I think this is this. I mean that the starting point that you just mentioned, right? Like capturing or and extracting the business logic or creating that PRD, right? I think
mm,
that's somewhere we have maximum control over, right? What actually gets right into that PRD.
mm,
So once we start right once we start verifying or right once we have control over hey these are the things that we need to do and this is right this is shared with the partners as well right we get their feedback and we get to it. So once we start good I think the rest of the things are much more easier to do right once you identify like hey this is something you need to do. Now once that checklist is before you right
mm,
you tend to right and what you're doing is you're breaking it down into smaller chunks. So it usually I mean I don't think like in my right if my memory serves right I never have seen something like hey we have missed something this massive
mm,
right in the discovery and right it later on right we realize like hey we missed something big. I think that hasn't happened yet.
mm,
And at times what and when you use AI tools right during your discovery phase it surfaces some of the questions that people don't usually ask as well. So that makes it completely well-rounded in terms of hey, you're getting more than what you initially thought of, right? As you as like as humans, we can only think so much. So AI helps us, right, in increasing those boundaries and right asking some of the underlying questions that people don't usually ask. So that makes that PRD more complete. And once you break it down, right into segments, into components, into modules, I think it becomes much more easier to follow. Right, any developer can take right a coding agent and then start implementing those things.
Understood. Understood. I know we are like 6 minutes on the top of the hour here. I don't see any new questions in the chat here. Those are all the questions here, uh, but it's not the end. I mean, you can always drop your any comments in the LinkedIn as well, and also we will make sure that the deck as well as the recording will land in your inbox in the next 24 to 36 hours. You will receive an email or a notification. There is one other question. Okay, so someone commented, I appreciate the idea of using AI to modernize older rail systems instead of replacing them entirely. Okay, don't burn everything down. Build wisely. Thank you, Satvika. I think that's the comment here. Anyway, thank you for everyone for joining in. I know everyone's time is very precious. Thanks for giving 50 minutes of your time. Keep follow the TechGrid page. We will put out the monthly webinar series, and mostly in terms of focusing on the AI and what we have been doing internally, and what is that we are like in terms of the new initiatives that we are doing for our clients and all, right? So uh, happy to share all the knowledge that we learn along the way. Thank you. Thanks for joining in. We will see you again next month. Thank you. Thanks, up.
Thank you,
Thanks,
everyone.
Ashok.
Bye.
Yeah, thank you.